Shark Tank's Robert Herjavec, founder and CEO of the Herjavec Group, joins us now on that. Robert, good morning.
Good morning.
So, valid concern. My issue with this is, why doesn't the U.S. just develop a data policy for how companies based in other countries need to treat data? I mean, today it's a China issue. Tomorrow it could be a Vietnam, Venezuela, Brazil issue. Who knows? Why single out China? Let's just have a policy that protects consumer data.
Well, I think that's probably not a fair statement. I think the U.S. has come a long way. Look at the privacy data laws that we have in California. They're very stringent, very similar to what the U.K. has for consumer data, something called GDPR. So I think the U.S. has pretty good policies around consumer data.
No, I'm talking about consumer data when it comes to companies that are based outside the U.S., which seems to be the issue here with TikTok, owned by ByteDance. Why not just have a policy that covers all such companies, whether they're based in China or anywhere else?
Well, I think the challenge is that companies based outside the U.S. don't play by the same rules. And I think a lot of people in the security community have a lot of concerns with these companies. The fundamental difference between companies owned in China and Europe, as an example, is in China, you have to provide your cryptography keys for security applications like this to the government. I mean, if you remember a few years ago, the US government tried to get access to an iPhone. It was really difficult for them. They couldn't break in. Apple wouldn't give them the code. On and on and on. Mm-hmm. You don't have that in China. In China, if you have an app in China, you have to provide that to the government. And I think what people often forget is that China is not a capitalist country. China is a communist country dressed in the trappings of capitalism. And it's that simple. And people are legitimately concerned what they're going to do with that information. Now, do I think that the Chinese government is going to create all kinds of special databases to track people on TikTok and watch their dance moves?
Yeah.
No. Oh, but I don't. But the possibility is definitely there. And I think that when applications come from countries like China, they have to be held to a higher standard.
And that's my concern, is that it sounds like what ByteDance might do is spin off TikTok, maybe base it somewhere else, even base it in the U.S. I'm not sure that that solves the underlying problem from a security perspective. You want the data to be secure, to give consumers and the government assurances about how it's going to be moved, how it's going to be trafficked, whether it's based specifically in China or not. To me, pointing to just China doesn't solve the issue.
Well, I think that TikTok, whether it spins out or not, the parent company is based in China. It's a Chinese company. But you're right there. Consumers want to talk about security as long as it doesn't cause them any inconvenience. And listen, the one thing I've learned is cheap is hard to beat and fun is hard to beat. TikTok is a worldwide phenomena, and whether it's insecure or secure or what the government thinks about it, consumers are adopting it. But that doesn't mean that governments should be adopting it. My issue is I'm not sure I care as much if my neighbors are doing dance moves on TikTok. I do begin to care if state, local governments somehow begin using that application. But I'm a security guy. I care more about security than the average consumer.
And Robert, Julia here, it seems like the issue is not really about video of dance moves. It's about the other data that could be collected from phones, location data, information about your phone, other things you're doing on your phone. It seems like that's really the risk. But my question then is, TikTok says it's a U.S.-based company. They just made this big hire of a new CEO, Kevin Mayer, who used to be at Disney. And if they take dramatic steps to separate from the Chinese parent, do you think they could really address those concerns and become an independent U.S.-based social network?
I think they have a long way to go. I think the hire for Kevin from Disney is a great move for them. But at this point, I still fundamentally currently believe that these are all window dressing. I think TikTok can come a long way. They have an incredible user base. It's a fun app, but I think they have a long way to go to convince the U.S. government and a lot of people in the security community that there aren't security issues with them.
Hey, finally, Robert, quick question on just real estate in urban areas. We got the rental listing data out of Manhattan, obviously no good. I wonder if that trend, that flight from cities is accelerating in ways that may be surprising even you.
Yeah, it really is. You know, that's an interesting point. I was talking to my friend Barbara from Shark Tank, and she was echoing that. I think there's definitely a move to the suburbs. This is one of the greatest moves to the suburbs from urban areas since, you know, the 1950s or the 60s. I recently moved out of Los Angeles into a suburban area, and I can tell you on a very personal level, my area is on fire. Everybody wants to leave large urban communities and move out into the suburbs. I think this is going to be a trend for a while, and I think urban real estate is going to hurt for a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully for entirely different reasons than the flight we saw that you mentioned before. Robert Herjavec, thank you.
Thank you, guys.